It's Sunday, July 1st, 2018, and it's time for the CFL report, week 3. Got the glasses on because I have some notes. So we're going to start off easily with the Thursday game. The Ottawa versus Calgary. It was a battle of undefeateds. 1-0 versus 2-0. Who came out on top? 2-0 came out on top. Calgary won. They're now 3-0. They're the last undefeated team left in the CFL season. They won 24-14. Mitchell had a pretty good game, 19-35, 251 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an INT. Jackson ran the ball for 84 yards and a touchdown, so they did pretty well. Ottawa looked like world beaters the week before. This week, not as much. They kind of fell a little bit flat, only scoring 14 points. Davis was swapped in for Harris. Harris was kind of ineffective, so they put Davis into the game. And Davis did pretty well, 5 of 7 for 41 yards and a touchdown. So he kind of made the score a little bit closer, but ultimately Calgary is still 3-0. The defense looks good for Calgary. It really does. So that puts Calgary at 3-0, only undefeated team left. On Friday, Edmonton pretty much dominated British Columbia. So Edmonton moves to 2-1, while British Columbia is now 1-1. Riley played a good game. 22 of 30, 326 yards, 3 touchdowns, a couple of interceptions in that. But Gable was probably the story of this game with 23 carries for 165 yards. He was a beast in this game. On the British Columbia side, Jennings didn't play that well. He did have 199 yards throwing, but no touchdowns and an interception. So Edmonton puts up 41 points. They go to 2-1. Then you get to Winnipeg versus Hamilton. Now, Hamilton is, of course, the team that most Americans are going to be interested in, only because Johnny Manziel is there. But I'll tell you right now, I don't see how Manziel is ever going to get to play, because Masoli is playing so well. 31 of 41, 369 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Thomas Erlington had 92 yards rushing, and Hamilton's now 2-1. Hamilton looks really good. I'm not really sure how they lost at this point. But Masoli looks like he's playing really good football. So I don't know what you do with Manziel. Manziel right now is just kind of sitting on the bench in Hamilton, not really going anywhere. And if you want to get better at football, you got to play. Now, there's been some injuries. There have been some injuries to a couple starting quarterbacks in the Canadian Football League right now. So I don't know if maybe Hamilton would entertain a trade. I'm not even sure if the trade window is open right now. But to me, with Masoli playing so well, where does that really put Manziel? And I wouldn't take out Masoli. I wouldn't take him out just to put a name in, because Masoli's playing too well. On the other side of it, Streveler is not playing as well for Winnipeg. 17 of 30 for 146 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions, though. No interceptions is a good thing. No touchdowns, not so much. So Winnipeg is now 1-2. So they're not looking that great either. But the season is still young. So a lot of these teams have a chance to turn it around. And with only a 2-week preseason, by what it looked like, is this kind of what we see normally in Canadian football, that maybe some teams have a little bit slower start? I mean, I think the Argos last year talked about having a slow start and still won the Grey Cup. So, put it all together by the end of the season, this part of the season, I mean, Winnipeg fans still have a lot to look forward to. But these games were, they're a little bit, almost expected. I think British Columbia is supposed to be a little bit better than they are, but for the most part, it's just normal stuff. But then you had the Montreal Alouettes and the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Montreal, I did not know this, was on a 13-game losing streak, going all the way back to last season. I mean, I saw the line on this. The line on this was Saskatchewan was favored by 10 points. So I'm just going, woo, and of course Montreal, no wins. They were 0-2 on the season, and they're playing in Saskatchewan. This was not a home game for Montreal. But Montreal wins the game 23-17, breaking that 13-game losing streak and finally coming up with a victory. And I think they were the team that got destroyed the week before, like 51-10. They were at a low point. They just wanted to get to that next game. Another side note of this was that before the game started, Montreal and Saskatchewan kind of did a little tribute to the Humboldt Broncos, who, tragically 16 people on a junior hockey team died in a bus crash. I mean, that's awful, especially you're considering it's a junior hockey team. These are young men, and 16 of them lost their lives. And that's terrible. And they had a puck that they used for the coin toss that was one of Humboldt's pucks, and on one side they had the Humboldt Broncos, and on the other side they had a thing that said Humboldt Strong. And so, of course, that's what they used to, basically decide who was going to get possession, which I thought was really cool. And they were selling pins there that were going to benefit the victims and the families of this tragedy. So I thought that was really cool. So, they started off the game that way, and but you hate to go into a downer like that, but Saskatchewan was already playing with a quarterback that was their backup. Bridge is the backup quarterback. They had lost Caleros last week, and Bridge was ineffective. 8 of 18, 111 yards, and 2 interceptions. Just plain ineffective. The Montreal defense was playing phenomenally well. They had 4 INTs in this game. You could tell that the Montreal defense was playing pretty well because their leading rusher was Watford, who is the backup quarterback that they brought into the game after Bridge went out. And Watford didn't fare that much better. 10 of 22, 108 yards. He did have a touchdown, but 2 more interceptions. So he didn't fare that much better. But Watford, you're getting down to your third-string quarterback when you take Bridge out. Now, Bridge last year, I guess was very effective in the backup role, but he didn't have a very good game this time. And Watford came in and played decent, but still threw a couple of picks. I'm thinking they're going to need Caleros back at this point. Saskatchewan is 1-2 at this point, and so is Montreal. So the Alouettes, of course, have a win. Now, Willie started off the game for Montreal. He had 8 of 15, 157 yards, and a touchdown. He hadn't thrown any INTs. But then he had a shoulder and neck problem, so they had to take him out of the game, and they put in Matthews, who was 8 of 12 for 98 yards. So he played pretty well. 8 of 12, very accurate, 75%. That's, or not 66%. Excuse me. So he played very well in the game. But both teams had no rushing attack. The leading rushers had like 21 yards. So no rushing attack. I mean, both the defenses were shutting down the run, or the offenses just weren't generating any kind of a rushing attack at all, or weren't even looking to. But this gets Montreal off the old schneid. They're now in the wins column for the first time in 14 games. They finally got one. So their 13-game losing streak is over. I was not aware. Like I said, I'm just learning about Canadian football, and I'm not well aware of what happened in the previous season because I'm coming into the 2018 season. But I'm trying to pick up some stuff from last year and bring it into this year. to learn a little bit more. Right now, I'll tell you, if I'm picking right now, the two teams that look the strongest are Calgary and Hamilton. Um, I think Masoli is just playing out of his head, and Calgary just looks stout. I don't know how long that'll continue for those two teams. It's still a long season. There's still 15 games to go for those two teams, but they look good. They both look strong right now. But just like with the NFL and a lot of other leagues, it's like you can look strong at the beginning and fade at the end, and strong teams or weak teams right now can get a little bit stronger. Remember, Toronto's 0-2. They're the only team that hasn't won, but they're the defending Grey Cup champions. Now, losing Ricky Ray was a hit to them, but at least they've got a week off to kind of, ease into this. Now, they're going to face, I think, Edmonton. Toronto's going to face Edmonton next week. And Edmonton, of course, will be coming off of 41 points and a victory over British Columbia. So it'll be something to look forward to. But that leads me back again to Manziel. There have been injuries. Collaros in Saskatchewan has been injured. You got even Willie went out with kind of a neck injury, but Matthews played well, so I don't know if you're going to do anything with that. You're probably going to enjoy having Matthews maybe take the reins here. You've also got injuries to I know Saskatchewan's got an injury. The Argos have an injury to Riley, or to Ricky Ray. I'm sorry, to Ricky Ray. So there are three teams out there that might be able to use a quarterback. So, let me know if you know, of course, a lot more about Canadian football than I do, which, shouldn't be hard. There should be a lot of people that know way more than me. But when does trading start? Is there trading during the season? Is it something where they could take maybe Manziel to one of these other teams? I'm sure they'd have to have Manziel's permission, because all the stuff all the hoops that everybody jumped through to get to this point of having Manziel on a Canadian Football League team. I think it's going to be interesting. It's like, because there are a lot of injuries right now, there aren't a lot of starting quarterbacks. Can Manziel maybe go somewhere else and help someone else? But right now I'm gonna go Masoli for MVP. but CJ Gable had such a great game with 23 carries for 165 yards. Usually when I think Canadian football, you don't think strong rushing attacks, but 165. That's some that's gaining your yards, man. So once again, I'm excited. Calgary still on that undefeated watch. Toronto maybe next week gets off the schneid, just like Montreal breaks their 13-game losing streak. Maybe Toronto breaks their 2-game losing streak and gets off the schneid finally. But we'll see. What did you think of week 3 of the CFL? Let me know down in the comments below. With all that being said, to the troops past, present, and future, thanks for the freedom.